The cafe warning. The small cafe in River North smelled of burnt coffee and damp wool. It was 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. Nothing about the moment felt cinematic, but when the stranger sat across from me and said, "Your husband is seeing my wife," the air in my lungs turned to ice. My name is Natalie Hart. I'm 34. The man introduced himself as Daniel Reed, calm, precise, not angry, not desperate. He placed a thick envelope on the table between us. "If you move first, you lose," he said, his voice low. "Courts don't hear pain, they hear proof. Act on emotion, and you protect the people who lied to you. Wait, and you protect yourself." For 7 years, my marriage to Eric Whitaker was a study in quiet reliability. Saturday groceries, Friday takeout, a life built on predictable silence. I mistook that silence for stability. But in the last year, the silence had changed. It became the quiet of a man who had already left, just hadn't bothered to close the door. The late nights, the phone face down, the new cologne, the weekend gym sessions that left him energized, not exhausted. I'd seen him myself 2 weeks prior, holding hands with a woman in a wine-colored coat across a restaurant window. I hadn't confronted him. A good friend, a lawyer, had warned me, suspicion is not evidence. Confrontation only teaches them to hide better. So I waited. I documented. I lived a double life. The dutiful wife on the surface, a forensic accountant of my own marriage beneath. Now, Daniel Reed was handing me the key to the prison I was already building around my husband. The pact. Daniel opened the envelope. Inside were photographs, dated and labeled. Eric and Brooke Lancaster, Daniel's wife, at restaurants, entering a movie theater, walking close in a parking garage. The same woman in the wine-colored coat. "I hired a professional," Daniel explained, his tone clinical. "I learned the hard way. Emotion is a liability. Proof is an asset." He slid a flash drive toward me. "Everything is on here. Correspondence, travel records, financial commingling they're not even trying to hide anymore." I asked him why he was helping me. "Because our situations are interlocked," he said. "If you file, Eric panics and warns Brooke. Evidence vanishes. Stories get rewritten. We lose leverage. If I file, the same happens in reverse. We have to move in unison, or we both drown." 3 days later, we met again. This time, Daniel brought a hard black case. He opened it on the empty chair between us. Stacks of cash, neatly bound. "He's asking me not to file for divorce yet," he said, watching my face. "This isn't a bribe. It's compensation for endurance. I need 3 more months. During that time, they'll get comfortable. They'll make mistakes. The evidence will become incontrovertible. All I ask is that you do not move first. You live normally. You share information with me. Facts only, no emotion. We treat this like a joint audit." The money was a shock. "I'm not for sale," he replied. "That's why it's not for silence. It's for space. So you can think strategically, not desperately. So you can afford to be patient." I looked at the money, then at Daniel's resolute face. He wasn't offering revenge. He was offering a partnership in justice, a calculated, cold, and effective plan. I took the case, not for the cash, but for the pact it represented.
The audit. The following 3 months were an exercise in excruciating discipline. I smiled at breakfast. I asked about Eric's day. I wished him well on his business trips. Meanwhile, Daniel and I operated with military precision. Secure, encrypted communication, shared logs. Every lie Eric told, every late meeting or gym session was cross-referenced with Brooke's whereabouts. Daniel had access to her calendar, credit card statements, even the location data from a family iPad she'd forgotten about. We discovered the Evanston condo lease. Eric had signed it 6 weeks earlier. I photographed every page and placed it back exactly as found. We tracked their business trip to Tampa, same flights, same hotel, even a shared rental car. The most damning evidence came when Eric, emboldened by my apparent ignorance, suggested he rent a place closer to work during the week. Daniel confirmed Brooke moved her essentials into the same condo that weekend. They were no longer having an affair. They were playing house, cohabitation, a fact that would reshape everything in court. Our shared file grew. Time-stamped photos, financial records showing Eric paying the condo utilities, parking logs, even grocery deliveries for two. We had a narrative of a parallel life, built with our money, documented with brutal clarity. The simultaneous strike. We chose a Monday, 10 a.m. Our lawyers, who had been quietly prepped for weeks, filed identical petitions for divorce, Natalie Hart versus Eric Whitaker and Daniel Reed versus Brooke Lancaster, within minutes of each other at the same courthouse. The petitions were masterpieces of fact, not feeling. They included the shared evidence, demonstrating not just infidelity, but financial deception and the establishment of a separate marital residence. The papers were served at their offices, no warning. Eric called me, his voice shaking with panic. "Natalie, what is this?" "It's the consequence of the condo in Evanston, Eric," I said, my voice flat. "And the trips to Tampa, and the life you've been building with Brooke Lancaster. I know everything, so does her husband." The silence on his end was the sound of a trap snapping shut. He rushed home, holding the papers like they were contaminated. He spluttered, denied, then tried to negotiate. "We can fix this. It didn't mean anything." "It meant $2,800 a month in rent, Eric," I said, citing a figure from our evidence. "It meant shared utilities, joint grocery orders, and a life you hid. The court has the records." The quiet reckoning. The legal process was anticlimactic. There were no dramatic courtroom showdowns. When faced with our binders of evidence, a timeline so dense it was undeniable, Eric's lawyer advised him to settle, quickly. The judgment reflected fault. The division of assets was adjusted in my favor. I was awarded a portion of the funds wasted on the secret life. Daniel achieved a similar outcome. Eric moved out. He offered a hollow apology on his way out the door. I accepted it without granting forgiveness. Some apologies are receipts, not reconciliations. Daniel and I met for coffee one final time weeks after it was over. There was no celebration, just two people who had walked through fire and come out the other side intact. I said, "Thank you." He replied, "We did it together." Patience was the weapon they never saw coming. The aftermath. I repainted the walls in my apartment. I reclaimed the kitchen table where I had once sat translating documents and quietly unraveling my marriage. The silence now is different. It's peaceful. It's mine. I learned that the most powerful revenge is not a scream, but a meticulously kept file. That love can be a lie, but numbers and timestamps never are. That sometimes a stranger who shares your wound can become the most trusted ally you'll ever have. Daniel was right. We didn't win because we were angry. We won because we were patient. Because we understood that in the end, the truth doesn't need you to defend it. It just needs you to present it clearly, calmly, and all at once. The loudest revenge is often the quietest. If you've ever had to choose between reacting in pain and responding with proof, you know the strength it takes to wait. For more stories of calculated justice and reclaiming your power, hit subscribe. Your patience is your greatest weapon.